It's the end of June and it's time for the first official garden tour of 2024. Hey friends, it's Barbara Sue at Kowalski Mountain and welcome back to the homestead. Now thank you for your patience over the last few weeks. I know I haven't posted a video in a while, and that's because we've had family and grandkids and things here, and you know what? I enjoyed it with them. So I am back, and I wanted to start with the first garden tour of the season. Now, the garden is really growing, and I am going to hit all 4 gardens today, but I have 2 main goals. Today's main goals are to dig up the garlic and pick peas. And if I can do all of that tonight while it's not so hot, I will be extremely happy. But I do want to show you how the garden is looking. So let's take a peek first. Now I'm going to go ahead and start right here closest to me. I thought this was yarrow, but it's not. Philip would know what it is. He planted some of the wild herbs here that grow on the homestead right here in this corner. His goal is that when we need a wild herb, that we know exactly where it is. Now we are extremely blessed that there are so many plants growing here on the homestead wild. And we have just begun to dabble in what they can do. I don't remember which one this is. I'll have to ask him. Now, the garlic is really starting to get overrun with weeds, which you can tell, obviously. And honestly, I can't remember what's onions and what's garlic. I know this is garlic for sure, and I think that row. I'm not sure, though. Gonna have to figure it out. Now, Philip and I bought some plant starts from an Amish farm, and they were so cheap that it's almost not worth it to start them ourselves. So we got some things of our own that didn't do very well, and then we got some things that we had not grown. Now right here I have some broccoli, and as excited as I was about broccoli, you can tell that it's bolting. Today is about 93 degrees now, and it's late in the afternoon with a temperature of 100 with the heat index. I think I'm going to pick that. Rather than let that bolt, I'm going to go for it because this one looked like that just a little while ago, and look what's happening to that. I'll probably pick that one too. Now our peppers are doing great. Now Philip did notice that there might be a disease issue on it. Now I'm going to be honest, Philip is the real gardener in our family. He's the one with the green thumb and much more knowledge. So you can see some of these leaves. I think he called it black spot. I do not know what he figured out. Now we have a ton of little hot peppers here. Now I don't like hot peppers, but he wants to use them for gardening remedies. Now the green peppers are looking great as well. I didn't actually know we had so many. With the grandkids here, I haven't been down here very much, I'll be very honest. This doesn't look good. Let's get that off there. Stop wasting energy. Now I'm hoping to make a ton of stuffed peppers and put them in the freezer to last us all winter. Now this garden we actually call the tomato production garden because that is the main crop that's in this garden. Now I have 2 rows of Amish paste tomatoes, and I think the rows are about 50 feet long. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen here. We use a ton of tomatoes. We use diced tomatoes, we use tomato sauce, we use spaghetti sauce, we use ketchup. We use a ton. And I'm hoping to grow enough to not have to buy any of those this winter. Now, if you've been following us here at Kowalski Mountain for any time, you'll know that here in Kentucky, we've called this gardening on grace. And before we moved here in September of 2023, we would travel here often and do what we would call workations. And on our workations, we would plant things in our garden and we'd hope it grew. We weren't here to take care of it, and we just hoped something would happen. Now we are here full time, and if you missed our video about moving here, you can check it out here. But we're building a homestead, and there's no shortage of work. So a lot of things that we need done aren't done yet. We will get to them eventually, but they're not done yet. And irrigation is one of those things. Philip talks to everyone, everywhere we go. He calls it networking. He does a lot of networking, but it really pays off. We've made some wonderful friends in a relatively short amount of time and really have stepped into our community and become a part of it. And through all of his networking, we have some Amish friends. Now the Amish don't irrigate either. And so Philip is constantly wanting to learn from them and learn how they do things. Now we're trying to mimic some of those things. You know, we put hay on our tomato beds, which that's not exclusively an Amish thing. People do that. But, you know, little things like that help the moisture that is here to last longer. Now, I honestly think that some of our things would be growing a lot better if we were irrigating. And you're going to see some areas that are not growing nearly as well as I'd like. But the tomatoes are actually doing pretty good, considering we're not irrigating. Now, we have had a long dry stretch. And when you live on solar, sunshine is very exciting. We haven't run the generator other than to do laundry in weeks. But we have had to water our garden. Now I got some footage of us pumping water out of our creek so that we could irrigate our gardens with the fire hose. And that was one of the main reasons when Philip was choosing property to build a homestead, that he insisted that the property have water. And we use the creek water to water the garden. We use it to water our cows and our animals. And so we are off grid, and our rainwater harvesting systems are not in place yet. So we have to get water in different ways. And the creek is one of the ways we do that. Let's check out these tomatoes, see how they're doing. Now, right along this outer edge, we did plant peanuts. That's what you're seeing here. And that's going to be used for animal food here on the farm. Now, we have a couple of varieties of tomatoes. Like I said, these first two rows are paste tomatoes, though that one looks suspicious that it's not. That's probably the variety that Philip wanted so he could have normal tomatoes. He likes a nice round tomato, not these weird shaped paste tomatoes. Now in this second row, we planted quite a bit of basil as a companion plant to help keep pests away. And so far that seems to be working. I am not seeing any evidence of aphids over here in this garden. Now you'll notice that we're not using tomato cages. We do have some tomato cages, but gardening at this volume, tomato cages are not practical. Now Philip put wire up, this is twine actually, as a way to support the tomatoes, and this is another thing that the Amish do in their gardens as well, and it seems to be working really well. Now I noticed down here I've got some growth, so I'm going to see if I can wrangle some of it in. Now my daughter brought my granddaughters here, and she's a gardener also, and she has a YouTube channel. You can check it out in the description box. She was amazed by their gardens, and the Amish were kind enough to let us walk along and check them out. I should have taken some footage. Maybe I'll drive back by and get some out the window. Now our friend Enos has a vegetable stand, so he grows at a much higher volume than just for his family. He actually really encouraged me because we're not going to be able to get irrigation in this year at all. We're watering as we have to, but doing it daily is just not a possibility. And he said that they've never had a total loss. And sometimes they don't get what they want, but they've never had a total loss. And so I'm holding on to that. Even though we might not have good harvests on all the things that we want, we are going to harvest something, and it's going to make a difference. So we'll just pray for rain and hope we get the best. Now, I don't know about you, but I love the smell of tomato plants. And I don't know why. It's such an interesting aroma. Now the strawberry harvest has come and gone, and our strawberry patch looks amazing. Now we made a new friend and we bought some strawberry plants from a gentleman that we met locally. Now we dug up his old plants that they wanted to change the variety, and we planted them and they did amazing. Now we didn't get a ton of strawberries. For one, you need a lot of strawberries to get a lot of strawberries. But the plants grew fantastic. Now the harvest of the strawberries came in when it was really wet. Our Amish neighbor Lizzie, whenever I talked to her, and sometimes I would tell her about the weather forecast, because she doesn't have an app on her phone. She doesn't have a phone. So she wouldn't know, and I was like, man, we're expecting rain for like 2 weeks, and she wouldn't know that, but she was just like, oh no, and that's going to really hamper the strawberry harvest, which it ultimately did. I'm thrilled that the plants look so healthy, and next year it'll be even better. Now we do want to expand the strawberry patch quite a bit. It's going to end up being about half of this garden. So over into those 4 rows will be complete strawberries for next year. Now, most garlic in the U.S. is harvested during June and July, and typically you would see your garlic scapes before harvest, and you would cut those so that your garlic bulbs would grow. Now, Philip and I were both watching. We were looking for garlic scapes. I didn't find a single one, and neither did he. So we never cut them. Now, I did find onion scapes, which that's bad, but we never found any garlic. So I dug up a garlic earlier today just to see. The leaves are telling me it's time to harvest the garlic. The rule of thumb is that when 2 leaves are dead at the bottom of the plant, it's time to harvest. And the leaves are telling the tail that it's time. Now this is a small bulb of garlic, but if you saw my garlic harvest last year, this is pretty exciting. Be sure to check out last year's garlic harvest right up here. Now I brought a couple of tools. Because it's so dry, I don't think that the pitchfork will be enough. So these are definitely small, but I've got more than 2 leaves dead, so it's definitely time to harvest it so I don't lose it. And remember, we're not irrigating. It's going to make a difference. Finally, a decent sized one. Now I am seeing some like black on them, which is another sign that they're definitely ready to harvest. They're not going to get bigger than this. This is an example of why I know it was time. You can see how this is getting black. It's not going to grow. 1 year I'm going to get a stellar garlic harvest. May not be this year. But you know what? Every year is an experience, and we learn a little bit more every year. Roxy, what are you doing? Get out of there. Get out of there. Out of that. Oh. I'm okay. Huh. Well, that's definitely an onion, which I thought it was. Pretty sure that's onion, but I thought we had more than one row of garlic. I need to look at my phone. Now, welcome to the main production garden, and we call it that because this is the garden where we are really trying to produce a ton of food. Now, these are the things that we eat the most of, and we want to see the greatest yields. Now, behind me, actually the whole length of this is about 100 feet long, and about the whole length of it, we have potatoes, and the potatoes are starting to show some signs of some maybe disease. I think Philip called it black spot. He was going to look into that. I saw a potato bug. Tomorrow morning I'll come back over here and I'll use my peppermint spray and spray that. It's a peppermint Castile soap, and I will also pick some potato bugs, but that's not the goal for today. And milking time is quickly approaching, so it's time to get this done. So we have 3 rows of potatoes. And most of these are Kennebec potatoes because those are our favorite. Now you can see the spots on it. And I don't know what he figured out he needs to do. Some little bugs. I'm going to spray for those. But you can see these tops are all dying out. I think it's too early to harvest. Now the green beans are really starting to flower. Now we had planned to do 2 successions of green beans, But we never got the second one planted. And the weeds have really come in, so I don't know if he's going to try to do another succession or not. I would almost bet not, but I guess we'll see. But green beans is one of our favorite vegetables, and these are really starting to come in. Now here's our peas, and they desperately need fertilizer. I would fertilize them, but I don't know where it is, so I'm not going to be able to do that. But I am going to pick peas today, but let's check out some of what we've got in here. Now along this fence line, I have several different kinds of squash. There's delicata, there's yellow squash, there's zucchini. Can't tell you which is which because we didn't label them. The whole garden is really showing dehydration, which unfortunately is going to really affect our yields. Irrigation will have to be a top priority for next year. Now we also planted corn. Now you know about our big cornfield in the top of at the front of the property. That cornfield is for our animals. This is the sweet corn, and this is for us. So we planted 2 successions, and we were supposed to do a third, which we did not get in the ground. Now this middle section right here, those are all the volunteer plants that were growing in the garden because we grew corn in here last year. So we dug them all up, put them in one section, and you can see them growing right there. Now something I really want to invest in for next season is a wheel hoe. Even though we're here this year, the weeds are still getting us. Oh my gosh, I think I have a cucumber that needs to be harvested. Whoa! And it's got bugs on it. We're going to take that. I knew we had one, I just didn't know it was this big. Now we have several varieties of cucumbers. Oh my gosh. I really got to come down here more often. I think it's the time of year where I need to be down here daily. Wow! Well, I was going to say this is a melon, but that's a cucumber. Well, now that I know these are coming in, I'm going to get down here a lot more often. I'm going to have to. Now, peas is something that we harvested several times while the grandkids were here. But I never looked at the cucumbers. Now that I think about it, these peas are probably showing the effects of the heat. It's been super hot. You know what's frustrating to me? Why are the weeds growing so well? They're not irrigated either, and they're thriving. Not too shabby. Now I do have a place where there might be, sorry, that sun is right in my face. I do have a place where there might be some more cucumbers, so let's check that out. All right, I don't see anything else that can be harvested here, so let's wrap up the tour in the animal gardens. Those are the gardens that we're growing for animal food, so you can see that. Pretty nice yield for our gardening on Grace. Now, if you remember from the last garden tour, which I'll put up here, our Amish neighbor helped us plant corn, and this corn is for our animals to help save on our grain bill. Now, it's so exciting to see this growing. Like, seeing the dream come together is so exciting, and that's what I see when I look at this field. Now, this is about 2 acres of corn, and Philip did plant some peanuts, but they are not growing very well. Now, just so you know, this is not part of my gardening square footage. This is separate. Like I said, this is like 2 acres. Now, honestly, I don't see a single peanut up here. I just see weeds. That's really disappointing. Now, this is growing amazing. This is a volunteer butternut squash growing in my compost pile. So whenever I think that maybe my compost might be hot, it's not too hot, I can see. And there's also some tomatoes right over there. Growing amazing. Now, this garden is part of the animal production garden. Now, right behind me are supposed to be tromboncino squash and mangelwurt's beets, but they're not growing very well. We were counting on this to feed our animals this winter, and it's very disappointing. Mangelwurts are a giant beet. These should be like the size of a basketball, like huge. And they're barely coming out of the ground. Tromboncino squash is growing, but I don't see a single squash. Got a few flowers. But no squash. Look at my sweet baby boys. Aren't they cute? Apollo is getting so big. Now, this is the other animal production garden, and there's a ton of pumpkin in here. There's melons, there's peanuts. Everything seems to be growing. Now, I took some footage this morning because in the morning, this garden is gorgeous. The blossoms are open. It looks amazing, but I noticed one thing. Squash blossoms come in male and female. And I get them confused sometimes. I always have to remind myself which is which. But to me, it looked like there was a lot of male blossoms today. Now, we do have a pumpkin someplace in here. I'll have to see if I can find it. So this garden definitely looks like it's coming along, but not a lot of actual fruit. Oh. Got a melon right down there. Some sort of melon. Oh, another one. Good. Here's my pumpkin. It's the only one I know about. Hopefully there'll be a lot more. Well, friends, I need to get on chores and do my milking. We are milking Cayenne twice a day now, so I need to get her in the field and get her milked and wrap up for the evening. As always, we really appreciate you watching, especially to the very end. I hope you've enjoyed this garden tour and you see how we continue to garden on Grace and the production that we have going on here at Kowalski Mountain. Now, it may not be exactly as we want it to be. It may not be as much yield as we want it to be. But we keep moving forward, and next year we improve more and more. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, hit that button. We'd love you to become a part of the Kowalski Mountain family. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Apollo, go to your room, please. Go to your room, please. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. Come on, Cayenne. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. All the way. Good. Now we started milking Kayana twice a day because she was drinking her own milk. Now I don't know if she still is or not because we quit separating Rex. I was concerned that he was not going to get enough milk, so I stopped separating him. We actually get the most milk from her in the evenings rather than in the morning. Now she's very hard to milk because she has very short teats. So I milk her mostly one-handed just because that's easiest. Now we're getting just under a half gallon with her, maybe 3/4 of the jar of a half-gallon jar. And that's milking her twice a day. The morning, terrible. This morning was not even worth milking her. It was like a cup. Easy. Easy. Come on, Mama.